Okay, so assuming you've had a chance, hopefully, to look at the Breaking into Wall Street section on scenarios and choose, let's talk about how we apply that here. So again, this is our goal to get to this kind of a table. And clear some contents here. To get to a table like this. So we need to use the choose function. And here it is in a somewhat trivial part or use of it of the choose function. But look and see what we've done here. We've said choose, and we've referred to this cell. And what we've said is, depending whether the number 1, 2, or 3 appears in the AB57 cell, pick value 1, 2, or 3. And value 1 is an AC58, which is right here. And 2 we're not really using, and 3 right here. So if we put a 1 in here, we input it here, this will change to additional rental space. We put a 3 back in here, we're back to our scenario 3, and this would be useful if we were trying to title the worksheet or a segment of it, so we could remember which scenario we had or what scenario 3 actually was. And we'll see that this scenario is actually going to drive, or this cell is actually going to drive a lot of other scenarios here. So let's think about going from scenario 1, which is putting additional rental space in, to scenario 3. What changes? If we go in and do this, I'll say manually, call it manually, if we go in one by one and change the cells, what cells are we going to have to change to go from one to the other? Well, purchasing the building involved changing the rent, right? If we were purchasing the building and not renting an additional spot, our rent would be different. So I've set up a choose function here. So these are just hard-coded right here, and this is just the rent under scenario 1 if we rent additional space, and this is the rent, or it's actually the entire segment of our expenses. It's our general administrative fixed. It's our only ones, right? So I put these on here, and when we choose scenario 3, this formula, again, same one as before, is going to choose from these, it's going to choose the, so as we toggle this from 1 to 3, this choose function is going to pick one of these two numbers for us. Now, why do we care about these numbers? Well, I'll show you where those numbers are going to go. First of all, let's set up a new window, and then arrange all. Let's do this horizontally, so vertically. So we'll get to see where we were over here. Same time we can go over here. So anyway, we're back to rent and seeing where that differs. And we've picked scenario 3. So we know that we're purchasing the building, so we want the lower rent. We've told the choose function if AB57 is so this choose function, if this number is a 3, then pick 600,000. So let's put this into the income statement. Now here's where I'm glad we've got an assumptions page, because instead of having to go into directly into the income statement and figure out how to toggle it or back and forth or whatever, we simply can refer here to this choose cell. So here's equal. We're going over here to C71. And now we've told this cell, which feeds into the income statement, simply go over and take whatever's in the choose function. Well, what's going to be in the choose function? Simply one of these two numbers that it's going to have chosen based on what we put in here. So to show you, if we put a 1 in here, right, it's going to choose 675 instead for that first year, 2015. This, of course, will mirror the 675, and that feeds into our income statement. Let's go back to 3 here. And we want that same thing to happen for the next couple of years. So paste it in there, and we have the right numbers, 600, 700. That's what we want. Do they change properly? If we go back and forth, 675, 725, right? If we've changed scenarios. So let's go back to 3. So now the rent will change simply when we change our scenario. What else are we going to change in these functions or in these income statements and balance sheets and so forth? What else is going to change as we go back and forth from scenario to scenario? Well, clearly, if we go into a scenario where we're purchasing a building, a number of things happen. First of all, scenario 3, purchasing the building, we're going to pay $990,000 for the building. Just in the first year, no change there otherwise. In addition to balance sheet impacts, we've got amortization of the loan, still also balance sheet and cash flow statement impacts, and we've been given those numbers. We just plug those in, right? Either 0 or 2940. Interest expense, we're given that number. Again, we have interest expense if we purchase a building and borrow the money. We don't have if we continue to rent or rent an additional building. Loan payment, total payment, turns out that's actually not used here. And of course, if we're buying a building, we've got to buy a building, and that's cost us $1.1 million. And then finally, the depreciation changes from scenario to scenario. No depreciation here. Now, a note on this. Let's go over to our assumptions about depreciation. All right, so we've got existing equipment, the building, and then new equipment. So we could have plugged in for total depreciation expense. We could have plugged in the 131, 141, and 141 again for scenario 3. But what if we had decided to go back and under either scenario, maybe buy a lot more equipment, okay, in both scenarios, or not buy this $10,000 of new equipment. If we plugged in the 141 and 131 numbers, we might mess ourselves up. So the only real difference between the two scenarios is this new equipment. So we'll put in what goes into the building depreciation. It's either 0 if we don't put a new building in, or it's this 36,000 and change number. And again, we've had the choose function choose that for us. I just went back to any places any place these were input, which was really just in the assumptions page, and plugged them in. So, for example, for the building, there was just one place for that new building to go in, and so I referred that to Z96, and if we go over to Z96, we'll see It's the choose function, not this cell, but it's based on the choose function. And this choose function, so make sure you understand what we've done here. We've put a choose function and said if AB57, and remember that was our scenario, if our scenario is a 3, then the choose function goes to the third possible value here, which is Z95, and makes this square here, right here, makes it equal to that third number. Now you'll notice, since we really don't care about scenario 2 in this case, I just put that if there's a 2 in the scenario, it stays with scenario 1, but that's just to filler to have a number there. And of course, if we want, we can go and see where these numbers come from. Do a little auditing, confirm that's where that comes from, or of course where it's going to, which in this case it's going to where we would expect it to go. Same thing with all the other inputs here. Interest expense, we've just asked, I've already plugged these in, said go over to Z86. Z86, of course, is choosing whether there is interest expense or not. So I'll stop this file now to break up the size and length of them, and we'll take a look and see if what we've done maybe works.